Welcome to Podcast Live. We've not been rehearsing that all morning, but I'm going to say it again just for dramatic effect. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Podcast Live. So my name's Ricardo Corvey, and hopefully you've been following the journey in the podcast channel over the last year. And we've already gave you a unique insight into the brand, but we're going to give you the biggest unique insight ever by welcoming you for the first time ever into the Rainbow International Congress. This is 2026. It's bigger, better than ever. It's all about past, present, and most importantly, the future of the brand. And we're going to have little discussions today, little small podcasts, little mini ones, where we're going to introduce some of the key players in the business, but most importantly, talking about some of the core values of Rainbow International. So, with no further ado, we're going to basically welcome the capo de tutti capo and the boss of them all, Mr. Alan Stewart. Okay, Alan, so we've already discussed why Congress, but can you remember back to the Hospitality Inn in Irvine and the Baked Alaska and drinks at the Lagoon and all those kind of things?
Oh, I can.
I can. You sure about that? Because you used to stay up in the bar later than anybody.
They were good old days. No, it was good. But as I say, in these days, we had loads of assistants, loads. It was just the way things were back then.
£26 a head, that's what it was. That's why there was loads of them.
I mean, personally, when I went into hairdressing, I had to pay £100 because you had to pay a premium if you were an apprentice. And it was a lot of money back then for my mother to try and find and actually put us into hairdressing, which is finally what I decided I wanted to be. I think my father was a bit shocked because before that I was in the stock exchange.
Yeah.
But that ended up being a good thing because I was a bookkeeper in the stock exchange, so I suppose that's where the maths come from.
Yeah, but you talk about that in your first podcast, the idea that you used to do that thing where you calculated everything every day, so that on the last day of the month, you only had that one day's figures to do, so that what took everybody else the whole day, you did in 5-10 minutes, and everybody thought you were at it and couldn't have possibly done it. But ultimately now it's our accounting book. I mean, it's just a figures book, but fast forward 50 odd years and that's manifested itself in that way. Talking about manifestation, you're talking about Kaizen, and it's a word that's buzzed around all the time now, but even back to the sort of inception of the original logo and the awards that came off the back of that, and you talking about finding that inspiration from Japan. How did you marry it into hairdressing? How did you take something that was ultimately the Toyota method and a business thing and implement that into hairdressing?
I think it's a little bit of what I was talking about earlier. It seemed to me that there's nothing wrong. I mean, we've just had the Winter Olympics. There's nothing wrong with being first, getting a gold medal. That's fantastic. Even being second, getting a silver or a bronze medal, that's brilliant. But most people don't get that. So, to me, it was a eureka moment. It was like, oh my God, everybody can win. You can be better the next day than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
And I suppose from a hairdressing point of view, when you're working in front of somebody, you don't need to ask the question, are you enjoying your visit? Because you can see it in the person's eyes and you can see it in their smile. You still ask. We had a fun reminisce last night when Ricardo was reminding me of when he was an assistant, and I used to say to him, how many times do you think I can get this client to say, Alan, you're brilliant. And he went, 3. And I would say, okay, let's go for 5. And it was only to allow Ricardo to see the detail in what I was actually doing. And it was, how did your fringe work out? You know, because I just sliced through that wee bit and, it was brilliant, Alan. Worked a treat, it was great. And what about the condition? Do you remember I changed that conditioner and put that on it? Oh, that was brilliant, Alan. And it went on like that, but broken up into small pieces. And then at the very end of it, when I was looking for my 5th brilliant Alan, it was, well, let me just turn you around, I'll sit down, I'll explain what I've done again. How's that? Brilliant, Alan. And it's all these little tiny things, because if you don't tell people how brilliant you are, they're not going to do it for you. But if you tell them how brilliant you are, then they're going to go and tell somebody else. And that's the whole principle. It's basic psychology. But it's nice to be liked.
Well, you talk about that with Kaizen as well, and I think where you're ahead of your time with that is the idea that we do live in a kind of self-help world now, and that we understand that we have to look after each other. And, you know, a lot of the team now are living on Instagram, TikTok, and they're competing against ideals that they can't compete against, and it's unfair for them to try and compete against. But the only person they can compete against is themselves. And by working to a Kaizen approach, knowing where they're at and knowing where they're going, they can do that, and they can get those many wins and those many successes. And, you know, they still might end up winning that Olympic gold medal, but they've actually been winning all the way to get to that.
To get to it.
So on that note, talking about winning, for those of you, again, that watch the podcast and, you know, stick with us and have been through them all, the most important bit of the podcast is which chocolate bar do you want? So, Alan, you've been such a good boy. Turns out you did do your homework last night. You did do your mind map, so I've got to reward you. And I know you're going to say, I like dark chocolate, but are you going to go Whisper Gold or are you going to go Lindor this year?
I'm going Whisper Gold.
Whisper Gold, right, well done. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Alan Stewart.